It's the best. And you say, oh, but this one was better. It's not. Yeah, they need to do less rebooting old crap and recycling stuff. I mean, for goodness sakes. Sorry, I'm full soapbox and I haven't even got into our topic. Welcome back to Privy. Privy is a podcast about bathrooms, recorded from my home bathroom. I'm your host, Hunter Hoover, and I love bathrooms. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And happy May. At the point of this episode, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm cracking it early. Get a little bit of liquid energy and quick, not a sponsor, but the folks at Agape Energy are doing amazing work because that mighty mango, the flavor is exactly the flavor of Arizona Mucho Mango Peach Tea or Mucho Mango Tea from back in the 2000s. You can't really get that flavor anymore. You still get the mango juice, but specifically the mango half and half tea. If you want that itch scratched with a little bit of caffeine boost, Agape Energy's Mighty Mango is for you. But this episode is brought to you by the hottest day of the year so far. And at the point of this episode's record, we are just a couple days into May. Now, full transparency, if you look at that and say, well, man, I'm listening to this not that long into May. Yes, I'm a bit ahead. I'm a bit behind on schedule. I like to usually have some things done ahead of time. Life's busy and the kids are out doing baseball, which means there is surely going to be some porta potties in my future. Stay tuned. There was a Randy potty just very, very recently. Very good, very Randy potty. A baffling amount of Cheetos is what I would say. Sometimes you see a porta potty and you wonder, how did so many Cheetos come to be involved in the making of this situation? But here we are. But this episode is coming out after, so it's kind of like a hindsight type thing. But yesterday, May 2nd, 2026, 3 days ago at the point of this episode's release, was Free Comic Book Day. Kids, I hope you guys got your free comic books. I did not. I went to Target to try to score some cool Pokemon-related Target swag, and I did pretty good, but I also did get beaten by the scalpers a bit. Fat losers just really got up all the jackets, So these Pokemon jackets, the largest size that they came in was a 2X. And my Target only got like 2 of the 2Xs, and they got, a handful of the smaller sizes down. But when I watch large, bearded, sweaty, pimple-faced men walk to the front counters carrying these jackets, I'm like, well, only 2 of you could have had a size 2X. And I know that because I asked the worker, I said, how many 2X did you get? Do you happen to know? He says, oh, there wasn't many. I think there was 2. And some of these jackets look like size small, size medium. And I know for dang sure that these are not for them. And now you might hear that and go, well, maybe it's for their children. Maybe. But the fact that when I check Facebook and eBay later on after that, and I see many size small, medium, and large of these jackets being sold on the internet, it really makes me wonder if these guys are not there to actually get cool Pokemon swag to enjoy, but rather are just simply looking to turn a profit on Pokemon swag and people's desire for it. I did get a pretty rad Jigglypuff shirt. I'm psyched about that. And I was bummed because I went back later in the day and there was woofy Jigglypuff stuff everywhere. It was like, where's the love for the puff? It really puffles my Jigglies when nobody loves the puff. But it was Free Comic Book Day as well. And it's been a while since we've dipped our toe into the world of comic books, superheroes, and the such. The first Saturday in May is, as I stated, National Free Comic Book Day. And while on the show we have discussed a number of topics with that notion in mind, we're going to take another crack at National Comic Book Day through the lens of a bathroom-themed or a bathroom-adjacent comic book character that's really going to spark my particular interest. And it got me wondering, we've talked about the Toiletnator from Codename Kids Next Door. I actually heard they were going to reboot Codename Kids Next Door. And I got to say something here. I got to get this off at the beginning of the episode. I think it's a horrible idea. I really think they need to quit rebooting everything. They need to reboot less and have original thoughts and ideas more. Rarely is the reboot as good, or even when it is good, it's not up to par for the original. I think the King of the Hill reboot that came out last year in 2025 might be the only exception to the rule. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that's like, no, this reboot was the best one. I don't think so. I think King of the Hill is one of the few that did it well. It's the best. And you say, oh, but this one was better. It's not. Yeah, they need to do less rebooting old crap and recycling stuff. I mean, for goodness sakes. Sorry, I'm full soapbox and I haven't even got into our topic. The Disney company is already like rehashing Moana. Moana's not that old. Like, there's plenty of older, more like well-seasoned Disney princesses in movies that they could drag out kicking and screaming in live action them, but they're not doing it because they care about their IP. They're chasing the money, and they do not want the Moana train to die. They don't want Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to become old or too frail or whatever to play Maui. And so they got to capitalize so they can make the most money out of it as they can. I'm way off in left field. But in observance or observation or recognition, I don't really know what the right word is when the thing that you're discussing doesn't really matter that much. Like, Free Comic Book Day is cool and all, but like in the grand scope of things, it's not that pressing. In observance of National Comic Book Day, I thought it would be best for us to dip our toe back into the world of bathroom-related and or bathroom-themed comic book characters that are very poop and smell specific. And our conversation today is briefly and minorly related to the DC comic universe. Now, I will admit, I had to do much of my knowledge is due to secondhand research and just looking up things to figure out what's going on. Like, what does any of these nerdacious words mean? It turns out there was two offerings that we were looking at, and I'm going to save one of them for the future because as I took a deep dive into the other, I found that, like, the well was very deep indeed. And while there's an offering for the future, there's been bathroom-related or themed characters throughout all of these comic book universes. And as I dug into it, like a scientist loves to dig through some skeet, we've talked about how much science loves to dig through poop. It's absurd. It's just like they love digging into poop. If you love science, you ought to love poop because you will probably have to dig through it one day. I found a couple of interesting comic book characters. We're going to talk about one. DC, and I had to dig into like, DC. So DC just stands for Detective Comics. And Detective Comics were named such because back in their earliest days, that's just exactly what it was. They were detective crime comics, comics about detectives, with the earliest of them being a crime-fighting millionaire named Batman who fights villains with it at night in a mask. DC, however, started out as the National Allied Publications and grew in notoriety as a comic book publisher when they published a work called New Fun, which was a large magazine collection of comic books and comic strips. It was special because it was the first time this much material had been compiled in one place. It was also one of the first time that businesses sold advertisements to be placed alongside comics in the comic book on the comic strips. I tried to look into what some of these ads were because I'll be honest, a lot of times when you hear ads and you hear comic books, you're like, I bet there was bathrooms and bathroom related things being advertised. But there was relatively few bathroom specific ads, much of them being for home appliances and cars and other like time-saving things. But that's enough about the brief history of DC Comics. It's not why we're here. Which again, the redundancy, because again, the C in DC stands for comics. It's a real ATM machine problem, or as I like to call it, the house that Superman and Batman built. DC is the house that Superman and Batman built. First up, I should note that out of the gate, I have technically told a lie. While DC did dip their thumb in this superhero pie, just really wank, just jamming the thumb right in there. DC did dip their thumb in this superhero pie. They are not the only publisher / company who has worked on and been a part of the franchise called Masters of the Universe. And Masters of the Universe, I have to say, is wholeheartedly an 80s thing. And as much as I did miss the hype on this in a big way, from what I've gathered, Masters of the Universe is a franchise or a comic book series and group of toys that was originally created by Mattel, which was a series of toys. Remember, they are a toy company. And then later picked up by a variety of popular comic book publishers for limited series and various print runs. Masters of the Universe characters are better identified as He-Man, She-Ra, or the highly memed Skeletor. We've all seen the Skeletor memes. The Until We Meet Again Skeletor running away, or the like the lofty knowledge Skeletor where he's dropping fat wisdom. Yeah, Skeletor is great. And they're all action figures. All of these Masters of the Universe characters are originally action figures which have their origin all the way back in the 1980s. When Mattel, again, the people who made like Barbie and other such things came up with Masters of the Universe and He-Man, they released action figures with a small comic book enclosed with the toy, referred to as a micro comic. This is actually a super impressive feat. And back in the day before YouTube, constant stimulation from tablets and cell phones and Netflix and smartwatches and the interwebs, having the lore of the toy included with the toy is so cool. Like, kids take advantage and take for granted the lore of the thing. They wake up and assume that the lore of He-Man is just built into like He-Man. And that if I don't have it, I can just go like Google it and Google AI will spit out a fat synopsis about He-Man and his many adventures. But before any of that stuff was an option, you had to read, you knuckleheads. You had to open up flippin' paper and read the words to get the lore about these beloved action figures and characters that you were playing with. And so they released these action figures with a micro comic. Through these micro comics and the accompanying action figures, Mattel told a story. They filled it with cool, interesting characters, and they built a universe and the masters of it, not only by putting out toys, but by giving those toys a backstory, some connection to each other, and meaning in the greater story that they were telling. It's an interesting thing. He-Man was a roving barbarian on the planet Eternia who was tasked with defending Castle Grayskull from the evil Skeletor. Whoever controls Castle Grayskull controls or is the master of the universe. And so, you have the good guys, those who fight alongside and help He-Man in his quest and defense of the castle. And you have the bad guys, those who either join or on their own would want to claim the castle for themselves. This is the premise of Masters of the Universe. And via these action figures, we meet a number of characters, some of which would go on to be franchise staples. Others, which would prove to be more limited in their release and popularity. One such villain in Masters of the Universe is a character known as Stinkor. Stinkor's superpowers, if you wanted to call it that, it's pretty on the nose, as are most of the Masters of the Universe characters. Characters like Clawful, Webstor, Buzz Off, Fisto. What did he say? But Stinkor is a skunk-looking humanoid. I think I saw one of those roaming in the neighborhood the other day. There was a rainbow ring-tailed thing putzing around the city park, and I just, you're a grown adult. Like, I don't care what you think you are, but take the rainbow raccoon tail off. That's it. Like, you can, again, an adult ought not, and that's all I'm saying. Every adult has things that they cannot do, that they might at times want to do. Part of being an adult is knowing that you can't do it. That's what I'm going to say about that. No rainbow ring-tailed adults. But Stinkor is this, like, skunk-looking humanoid thing with a weird mask, and he, or it, is said to have super stink powers. And while Stinkor's stink blasts appear in the pictures that I have seen, have the stink coming out of the horns that are kind of on the top of his head, it's in contrast to my role as Stinkor, wherein the stink blasts come out of my bottom. I've eaten a lot of taco meat this week. I kind of had tacos for dinner last Sunday, and then I had tacos for dinner Tuesday, and then I had like taco leftovers Wednesday, and then it was Cinco de Mayo tacos at church today on Sunday. And my fart constitution has been a bit randy. Yeah. But these pictures show the stink coming out of his horns, and Stinkor is known and is called the evil master of odors. Nice. That's my nickname yeah. You know what? I consistently have a lot of gas, specifically about an hour to 2 hours after I eat my fat salad for lunch. He is a race of creatures called the Pelesians. His given name, his Christian name, if you will, was, if you could believe it, not Stinkor. You know, his mama didn't name him that. That wasn't his mama's name for him. Rather, his Christian name. The name his mama gave him was Oedipus. Get it? Like odor. Like, get it? In his description, it states that Stinkor literally, quote, reeks of evil. It's actually great because the character's design has him wearing a gas mask to defend against his own stink. It's kind of like on the morning after every time I ate tacos every day this week. I eat, and then I'm on the elliptical. And the thing about it is, like, there's always this kind of wager with myself is like, can I, mid-exercise, eke out a toot and A, not have it be so loud that everybody around me hears it, but B, are the people that are near me far enough away to where they will not smell it? Because after taco celebrations, those toots are rolling, baby, and they are stanky. Sneaks out, and now you're gasping for air because you're fat and working out, and the smell smells like the air smells like taco meat butt in turd essence form. It's no good. Stinkor gets it. He understands, and he has the struggle with the plight of the everyman. Your stink stinks. Stinkor released with the micro comic titled The Stench of Evil, and in it we are told the sorceress, who I think is actually like the main good guy in the world of Masters of the Universe. It's like she hired He-Man to do all the defending. I don't know. But she, the princess sorceress lady, and a character called Mossman are out enjoying nature as one is wont to do. And Skeletor is nearby, and he sees them being happy. And that won't do for Skeletor, because he's just got to ruin some crap. So Skeletor goes and gets his friend Stinkor and asks him to roll up into the forest with his rank beefers. And when he does so, all the animals leave, and Stinkor actually got a little rise out of it. So he decided to fart poison a nearby village as well. A bunch of the heroes of the He-Man universe, they can't do anything about Stinkor and his very bad stink because his stanky grunt clown paralyzes them. He fart juiced so bad out of his face hole that they can't even move. It's crazy. However, one of the heroes is safe, Mossman, because his moss traps the stink. He traps Skeletor in the pit, does battle defended by the shield of oxygen around him because of the moss, and Stinkor is knocked into a bed of flowers, which he says is the worst thing he's ever smelled. See the irony? Do you get it? And then Stinkor runs away. So, like, day saved, right? I gotta say, I'm not sure how well defended Castle Grayskull could really be if a dude with some face IBS and a skeleton man whose best idea of the day is to run the fart monster at the people is almost able to upturn the whole thing. It's wild. But not as wild as what else came in the packaging. In the packaging of Mattel's original release of Stinkor and the Forces of Evil, or Evil Forces of Nature, or whatever the heck, the Stench of Evil, you had one other thing packaged in. Or you should have been, but you didn't have any context for how to deal with it. Packaging on the box for Stinkor reads, product has real smell. ... It's fun. That's exactly how it reads. Product has real smell. It's fun. Couple of things to note here. First, normally, when something's fun, I don't need to be told that it is fun. I just find it to be fun as I enjoy it. To me, this is kind of a cry for help. No, it's fun, really. Please believe us about how fun it is and buy the smell-infused action figure we have created. The other trouble is the character isn't cinnamon apple pie or citrus breeze inator, like cinnamon apple pie woman or a citrus breeze inator man. It's friggin' rank beef fart smell. Everyone until they choke and die stinkor smell. Come on, kids. Get a big huff of our stinky stinkor plastic from the 1980s. Surely, sniffing this plastic won't have any downstream consequences. One day, there's going to be some strange link between some adult characteristics and kids who sniffed stinkor when they were 9. What are you doing? Oh, I'm sniffing my stinkor to see if he stinks. And what's troubling is that fun that they tried to convince everyone of seemed to have been less fun than they let on, because they have made some stinkor merch since then. And as far as my research extends, other than the first batch, the stinkors remain pretty mellow, meaning that they didn't do the smell thing. That is, of course, until 2018. At the summer convention exclusive Stinkor Funko Pop that is just labeled as scented. At least Funko didn't try to gaslight me about it being fun or not. Reports claim that the smell was not butt reek smell. Those who have huffed the Stinkor report that it has a patchouli, earthy smell. For those who do not know what patchouli is, patchouli, or patchouli, I would love to enlighten you. It is an Asian herb that is very similar to mint and is known for its strong, earthy smell, or as Mattel in the 1980s and Funko Pop in the late 2010s interpreted, butt reek. Patchouli's the smell that all the hipster free earth tree huggers run around rubbing in their beards and mustaches. It kind of smells like a stinky old man who slept in a dirty sleeping bag. That is what they made Stinkor smell like. And maybe there's a lesson in there for all the musky hipsters walking around. You smell like an 80s comic book inspired figure skunk man hybrid guy stink machine. But before Stinkor was adapted into his reek-filled chunk of plastic, he was but one of the rejected ideas. When He-Man was finally received well, it made enough money for Mattel to deem it worth keeping around. They decided to make a new show called She-Ra, Princess of Power. And as they pitched the new show, they needed some new characters to help round out the cast. He-Man, of course, Princess Lady and the gang. And they were pitching it a very specific skunk-themed, fart-stink-themed man was involved. When Stinkor was presented to the staff and Filmation who would make the show, he was pitched as a member of the evil horde. However, it turns out Stinkor stunk too hard, that no one wanted him in their show. What's dumb is they actually thought Stinkor was funny. When the description was read about Stinkor, they laughed because Stinkor was essentially a walking fart joke. But at the time, they vowed to never put Stinkor in any script. Barred for life. But the series sequel, He-Ro, Son of He-Man, and the Masters of the Universe, does contain a character named Odar, whose superpower is spraying a very bad stink in order to knock out his enemies, and has a similar description. They never made the show, and by extension, Odar, Stinkor, never made it onto screen. In time, Stinkor would make it to the animated portrayals of Masters of the Universe. In 2002, Stinkor made his debut cartoon in an episode called The Sweet Smell of Victory. In it, a white, furry creature named Oedipus, where have we heard that name before, reveals he is there to steal potions. And even in the cartoon, he wants to use his very good stink powers to join the evil warriors, and Skeletor will not let him. One difference in this form of Stinkor's beginnings was he can't even stand his own smell. In this regard, he is honestly falling into the same tropes as the Toiletnator or Lou Pottingsworth III, who was the villain we've discussed in Codename Kids Next Door, who wasn't even accepted by the other adult bad guys. It's a weird world that all these bathroom superheroes are not only rejected by the good guys, but they're rejected by their evil counterparts. Stinkor makes less than 10 appearances between seasons 1 and 2 in 2002 through 2004 of Masters of the Universe. He pops up again in a comic book called Dream Halloween, and is last seen in a web series turned Netflix animated series called Masters of the Universe Revelation. Stinkor makes a limited appearance, voiced by Jason Mewes, where he tries to steal a magical item. Jason Mewes? I don't know, sorry, Jason Mewes. And he's defeated by two mercenaries to get it back. And that's really Stinkor's contribution to the world of He-Man and Masters of the Universe. I will note, there is a Masters of the Universe movie coming out this summer, so we'll see. But I'll be honest, I'm not hopeful that Stinkor is going to make an appearance in it, because as I look at the IMDb, like who's in it and like who's playing what role type thing, it has nobody listed as playing Stinkor, which is kind of a bummer. Like, I'm not going to lie. I really was looking forward to Stinkor being on the big screen, but you know. Well, this was in recognition of National Free Comic Book Day. And the only comics we really talked about were the ones that came packaged with the vintage Stinkor stink. What a world. And while Stinkor never appeared in a DC Comics version of Masters of the Universe, I think it's because few have had the courage to pull a Stinkor. Make something weird that's almost too niche, but it never backs down in that charge. Here on Privy, this act of producing something weird and taking ownership of it is called owning your stink, which we, as Stinkor, did proudly do. This brings us to the end of another episode of Privy. Thank you for being here. Happy National Comic Book Day. Go check out the Privycast website, privy-cast.com. You can find all our episodes there. You can even search for episodes, and you can shop our store of Privy merch. We have Privycast logo merch, and we have new merch that is getting ready to come out. So keep eyes on that. But go rep your favorite bathroom podcast. Own your stink in that way. You can also leave the show a rating review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The 5-star options are preferred. You can even leave us a written comment or review, and we will read those out from time to time as you leave them. And for every rating and review you leave, we will donate some money to Wounded Warriors and Living Water International as a reminder to keep pooping in the free world. This free world was not always free. And in pursuit of cleaner water for all, everybody should have it, but not everybody does. I would also like to thank Kevin and Poddington and any others that we have used your music this week. You can find links in the description below for all music that we have used. You can also find any links to Privy Store and other things. If you ever heard something in the show and we're like, oh, I wonder where, I try to keep the sources down there as well. Go check out those things. This brings us to the end of another episode of Privy. Thank you for being here. Keep pooping in the free world. Own your stink. And now, as always, don't forget to flush.